I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to get blindsided like this, but here I am. I was with Emily for almost 5 years, married for 2, and everything seemed fine. She was gorgeous, smart, a little bitchy sometimes, but in a way that I always found charming. We had our moments, sure, but it was always comfortable, or so I thought. We'd been long distance for a while because I took a job in another state and she stayed back home. We talked every day, sent stupid memes, and tried to keep things alive despite the miles. But lately, I'd started noticing small things. She'd be unusually defensive if I brought up plans to visit. She'd cancel last minute or come up with ridiculous excuses for why she couldn't meet up. She'd get cold, distant, and I caught her in little lies. Not outright cheating, maybe, but enough to make me suspicious. Texting someone late at night, hiding her phone when I came into the room, acting weird when I'd ask about her day. Then, last weekend, I finally decided to surprise her. I booked a flight, got an Airbnb nearby, and planned to show up unannounced. I thought maybe she'd be excited, maybe it would rekindle something. What I didn't expect was what I found when I came home early, way earlier than I'd told her I would. I wanted to catch her off guard, see her reaction, maybe get some clarity. But what I walked into changed everything. I parked around the corner so I could see her apartment from the street, just to make sure everything was okay. The lights were on, and I saw her silhouette through the window. I felt my stomach tighten. I saw her move around, leaning into the couch, then standing up, then sitting back down again. That's when I saw him, Chris, her best friend. Or so I believed. They were close, yeah, but I never thought they were asterisk that close. I'd met him a few times, a decent guy, but I'd always assumed he was just her friend. Apparently I was wrong. I didn't want to barge in right then, so I stayed hidden, watching as they sat close on her couch. She was laughing at something he said, leaning into him a little too much. Their knees brushed. I could hear muffled voices through the window, but I caught enough words. Flirtation, inside jokes, that fake laughter that she always puts on when she's hiding something. It hit me like a punch in the gut. My wife Emily was cheating on me with my best friend. I felt my fists clench. My mind raced. How long? Was this just a one-time thing, or had they been at it for months? I couldn't believe it. All the trust I'd built up, shattered in a second. I took a deep breath, trying to hold myself together, then slowly backed away from the window, my heart pounding. I knew I couldn't just leave without confronting her. I had to see her face, hear her lie, or maybe, just maybe, catch her in the act of lying. I went back to my car, caught my breath, and thought about how I was going to do this. I'd spent days building up to this moment, but now that it was here, I didn't feel brave. I felt betrayed. I felt humiliated. And I knew deep down that my entire world was about to change forever. I waited until I saw her pull into the driveway, and then I parked my car a few streets down. I needed a minute to gather my thoughts, to figure out what I was going to say, or even if I should say anything at all. The anger was bubbling under the surface, but so was this strange, cold numbness. I kept telling myself I'd be calm, rational, like I wasn't just about to confront my wife with proof that she'd been lying right to my face. When I finally stepped out of the car, I saw her come inside, fumbling with her keys. She looked tired, like she'd had a long day, but the way she was acting, the way she kept glancing around nervously, it was obvious she knew I was coming home early. I took a deep breath and followed her, every nerve in my body on high alert. She headed straight for the bedroom, trying to act casual, like she hadn't just been caught red-handed. I stood in the doorway, watching her, and in that moment I felt a mix of rage and heartbreak. All the times she'd called me paranoid, told me I was imagining things. All the moments I doubted myself, questioned whether I was reading too much into her behavior. Turns out I wasn't crazy. I'd just been blind. I didn't say anything at first. I just stared at her. She finally noticed me and tried to dismiss it with that bitchy smirk she always wore. "Oh, you're home early," she said, her voice dripping with false innocence. "What a surprise." I crossed my arms. "Yeah, I thought I'd surprise you, but I guess I should have known better." Her eyes flicked to the door, then back to me. "What are you talking about? You're overreacting. I've been just relaxing here, doing nothing special." "Relaxing?" I repeated. "That's funny because I saw you on the couch laughing at some stupid joke with Chris. Yeah, your best friend, remember, the guy I thought I trusted. Her face twisted, that fake smile dropping into something colder. Look, this isn't what it looks like. We're just friends. Nothing's going on. You're overthinking it. I shook my head, feeling the heat rising in my chest. You expect me to believe that? You're practically crawling all over each other, acting like a couple, and you're telling me nothing's happening. She rolled her eyes, crossing her arms. Honestly, you're just jealous. I don't know what you want me to say. Chris is just a friend, okay? Sometimes we talk, we hang out, it's not a big deal. I couldn't take it anymore, my voice cracked with emotion. Not a big deal. You're cheating on me, Emily, with my best friend. How stupid do you think I am? I saw everything through that window. Every touch, every laugh. This isn't just talking or hanging out. You're having sex with him, aren't you? Her face flashed with something ugly, anger, defiance, maybe guilt. You don't know what you saw. Maybe you were just imagining things because you're so insecure. Honestly, you're overreacting. I don't owe you an explanation. I felt my fists clench again. You're lying. You've been lying for months. Every time I asked you about your phone, about your plans, you'd make some bullshit excuse. I was stupid enough to trust you, but not anymore. She looked at me, her eyes narrowing. You're being ridiculous. I can't believe you're accusing me of cheating when all I wanted was to have a little fun. I'm not some perfect wife, okay? I have needs too. And if you're so worried, maybe you're the one who's got issues. That was it. Her words hit me like a slap. I finally saw her for what she was, a manipulative bitch who thought she could lie her way out of anything. The betrayal cut so deep I felt like I was going to black out. I didn't say another word. I just turned around and stormed out of the room, my mind racing, my heart pounding. I knew I couldn't stay there, not with her, not after this. I grabbed my phone and texted my brother to come pick me up. I needed to get out, to breathe, to figure out what the hell to do next. While I waited outside, I couldn't help but replay everything. The lies, the sneakiness, the way she'd lied so effortlessly. And I wondered how I'd ever trusted her in the first place. As I sat outside waiting for my brother to pull up, I couldn't stop the whirlwind of thoughts crashing through my mind. Part of me wanted to break everything in that apartment, to tear it apart like she'd torn my trust apart. The other part just felt numb, like I'd been punched so hard I couldn't breathe. I kept seeing her face, that fake smile, the way she lied with such ease. I kept hearing her dismiss my concerns, calling me paranoid, insecure. It's funny how the truth hits you like a freight train when you least expect it. When my brother finally pulled up, I got into his car without saying much. I told him what I saw, how I'd caught her with Chris, how I'd seen enough to know it wasn't just innocent friendship anymore. He didn't say much, just nodded and promised to help me figure things out. I didn't want to hear advice. I just wanted out of that house, out of that nightmare. I'd always thought I was a rational guy, someone who could handle anything, but this was different. It was like my entire world had crumbled in a matter of minutes. We drove in silence for a while, and I stared out the window, trying to make sense of what I'd just learned. The anger started to bubble again, but this time it was mixed with pure sadness. I kept asking myself how I missed the signs, how I could have been so blind. I had trusted her, loved her, built my life around her, and for what? To find out she'd been lying to me, cheating on me with someone I considered my best friend. It felt like a punch to the stomach every time I thought about it. When we reached my place, I took a deep breath and told my brother I needed to be alone for a bit. I needed to process everything, to think about what I was going to do next. I knew I couldn't just pretend it hadn't happened. I couldn't keep pretending that everything was okay. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and honestly pretty damn angry at myself for trusting her so blindly. But beneath all that anger was a strange sense of relief. I finally knew the truth. No more lies, no more secrets. I could start figuring out what my next step was. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept tossing and turning, replaying the scene in my head, trying to understand how someone I loved could do something so cruel. I kept asking myself if I should confront her again, if I should ask her why she did it, or if I should just cut her out of my life completely. But deep down, I knew the answer. I'd been betrayed, and now I had to decide whether I wanted to fight for a marriage that was clearly broken or let go and move on. In the days that followed, everything felt different. The house was emptier, colder somehow. When I saw her, she acted like nothing had happened, like she still had some control over me, over the situation. But I wasn't stupid. I saw through her fake apologies, her pitiful attempts at guilt-tripping me. The truth was out, and no matter how much she lied, I knew I couldn't trust her anymore. I felt a strange mixture of sadness and anger, like I'd lost something I'd never get back. But I also knew I had to do what was right for me, even if it hurt like hell. That week was a nightmare. I stayed in my apartment mostly alone, trying to keep my head clear but failing miserably. Every time I saw her, her eyes would flick away like she was hiding something, even when she was pretending to be innocent. I'd catch her giving me those fake, bitchy smiles, the kind she always used to use when she wanted to dismiss my concerns or make me feel small. She still acted like she was the victim, that I was overreacting, that this was all some misunderstanding. But I knew better. One night, I finally hit my breaking point. I couldn't keep pretending that I didn't have all the proof I needed. I sat her down, looked her straight in the eyes, and told her I knew everything. That I'd seen her with Chris, that I knew she'd lied about everything. At first, she tried her usual bullshit, denying, twisting her words, saying I was crazy, that I was just insecure, but I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her I wasn't interested in her excuses. I wanted the truth. Her face shifted, and for the first time, I saw real anger in her eyes. "You don't get to tell me what's true or not," she spat. "You're just jealous because I had a little fun. Big deal. You think you're so perfect, but you're not. You're not the man I married." That hit me harder than I expected. The way she said it, so cold and dismissive, made me realize she had no intention of changing. She was just trying to save face, trying to make me feel like I was the one who screwed up. But I didn't care about her excuses anymore. I just felt a deep, draining sadness. I'd loved her, believed in us, and now I was faced with the reality that she didn't care about me at all. I told her I was done. Done pretending, done trusting her, done being the fool who believed her lies. I told her I was going to leave and never look back. She rolled her eyes and said I was overreacting, that I was ruining everything, that I was just being dramatic. But I didn't care. I packed a bag that night, told her I'd be staying at my brother's place until I figured out what to do next. I didn't want her to think she still had power over me. The hardest part wasn't even leaving. It was realizing how much I'd sacrificed for her, how much I'd ignored the signs. All those little moments, her secretive texts, her late-night phone calls, her dismissive attitude, those were clues I chose to ignore. I kept telling myself I was paranoid, that I was overthinking. But now I knew the truth. I'd been blind, and I'd been betrayed by someone I loved and trusted more than anyone. That night, as I sat alone in my brother's apartment, I felt a strange mix of relief and devastation. I was finally free from her lies, but I'd also lost someone I thought was my forever. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I couldn't stay with her anymore. I had to rebuild myself, piece by piece, and somehow figure out how to move on from this. It was the kind of pain that lingers, but deep down I knew I deserved better. I just hoped I could find it again someday. In the days that followed, everything felt surreal. I kept replaying the moments, trying to understand how I hadn't seen it coming, how I'd been so blind. Every little detail, every odd behavior suddenly clicked into place. I started questioning every moment we'd shared, every word she'd spoken. It was a brutal process, like ripping off a bandage but knowing the wound's still there underneath. The betrayal wasn't just from her cheating. She'd been lying and manipulating the entire time, hiding who she really was. I decided I needed to get out of that apartment for a while. Staying there was too painful, too full of memories that cut too deep. I rented a small cabin upstate where I could be alone with my thoughts, away from her, away from the city. I didn't want her to know where I was, didn't want her to think she could manipulate me or guilt me back with her pathetic apologies. Honestly, I didn't want to hear her voice or see her face again for a long time. I was angry, hurt, confused, and I knew I needed space to process all of it. While I was packing, I found a box of her stuff, little things she'd left behind. The notes, the lingerie she always insisted she never wore in front of Chris, the stupid gifts she bought him. I felt my chest tight and my fists clench. That shit was all I needed to remind me how much she'd lied, how deep her betrayal went. I threw most of it in the trash, feeling a strange sense of relief cleanup brought, like I was purging her from my life bit by bit. On the drive upstate, I listened to loud music, trying to drown out the chaos in my mind. I felt both exhausted and strangely liberated. For the first time in a long time, I allowed myself to think clearly what I wanted, what I deserved. I wasn't going to chase her, beg her to stay, or even try to fix this mess. I knew I'd be better off without her, not because I hated her, but because I deserved honesty, respect, and someone who actually cared. That night alone in the cabin, I sat outside under the stars, feeling the cold air on my skin. I let myself cry, let the tears fall freely. It was the first time I'd really allowed myself to feel everything: anger, sadness, disappointment. I realized I'd spent so much time trying to hold on to a relationship that was already broken, convincing myself she'd change or come around. But she hadn't. She just lied and cheated, and then had the nerve to act like I was the crazy one. I knew the road ahead wasn't going to be easy. Moving on from someone you loved, especially after such a brutal betrayal, takes time. But I also knew I had to do it for myself, to heal, to find peace, and to rebuild my life. I couldn't stay stuck in that nightmare forever. The only choice I had now was to accept what happened, learn from it, and make sure I never let myself be blind to someone's true nature again. That's the lesson I've taken away. Trust is fragile, and when it's broken, you have to be willing to walk away. No matter how much it hurts, sometimes that's the only way to truly move forward. Months have passed since that night I left her apartment, and I can honestly say I'm starting to feel like myself again. The pain still lingers, of course. There are moments when I catch myself thinking about her, about what we had, and it hits me all over again, like a punch to the chest. But the difference now is I don't dwell on it. I've learned that some things are better left behind, and some betrayals cut so deep that they change you forever. Living away from her in that quiet cabin gave me the space I needed to breathe and reflect. I spent days working out, reconnecting with old friends, and rediscovering what I actually want out of life. I realized that I'd been sacrificing a lot: my happiness, my peace, for a relationship built on lies. Now I'm rebuilding piece by piece, stronger than I was before. Looking back, what hurts the most is how much I trusted her. I thought I knew her, understood her, and it turns out she was hiding a whole other person beneath that bitchy smile. It's a harsh lesson about trust and how easily it can be shattered. But I also learned something equally important. I'm stronger than I thought. I survived the betrayal, and I'm still standing. I've come to accept that not all relationships are meant to last, especially when the foundation is built on lies. I don't hold any bitterness toward her anymore, just a quiet sense of loss for what could have been. But mostly, I feel relief. Relief that I didn't stay and fight a losing battle, that I didn't let her destroy what little self-worth I had left. I'm ready to move forward, to find someone who respects me, who values honesty, and who doesn't play games. To anyone out there dealing with betrayal, trust me when I say it hurts like hell, but it also teaches you who you really are. You'll find strength in the aftermath, even if it's buried beneath the pain for a while. You'll learn to listen to your instincts, to value yourself enough to walk away when someone shows you their true colors. Never settle for someone who lies or manipulates, because in the end, the most important relationship you have is with yourself. And if you take anything from my story, let it be this: don't be afraid to walk away from lies. You deserve the truth, and most of all, you deserve peace.